Hey guys, it's me again, Adam Stone. I know it's been a couple days since I've been on, but I'm okay. I'm at my desktop again. Got another picture and internet demonstration for y'all here. So unfortunately, I can't zoom in on this particular page, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you up here. Now, if that sounds weird, yes, Stanford actually came up with this as a part of Generation Anthropocene, the geology of Game of Thrones. Now, the reason why, I know this will sound weird, but no, seriously, guys, there's actually something story and narrative. You see, just like the Eye Stone is a mirror to jealousy, so too is narrative and story a mirror to our own lives and how we live them and what fears we express and the other things and what values we encode into the stories and narratives. And so this is why when you actually look at stories and narratives, you see things like when I mentioned before that Santa Claus is a pedo who commits home invasion through chimneys and stuffs your stockings and calls you naughty and nice and eats your cookies and milk. It's just like, dude, I'm sorry. I had to burst your bubble. That's the truth of the matter. I know it's sad. It's sad. I'm sorry. But don't worry, guys. We've got a mission ahead. And as it currently, excuse me, as it currently stands right now, the geology. Now, this is actually what interests me the most. If we go up here, now I'm going to go and show you the map that's over here, and that's just a thing of Westeros. Then we go back down here. Now, as you can see, there are other land masses that are mentioned. Sothorios or Sothoros is it's been described, not heavily, but as you can see, it's compared to largely that Africa and the whole forest it is definitely a bit distinct. As you can see, various similarities to the real world as well. At the same time, we also see an Uthos mention, south of Essos, east of Sothorios, and that's actually going to be important later. He described Uthos as being kind of like a big island or Greenland or something. So that's going to be important later. Now let me go ahead and show you guys over here what I'm talking about. So this, let's go ahead and zoom in here. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a, there we go. So now this here is Essos that's being referred to. And this here is Westoros that's referred to. And this here is Sothorios, and then some Ulthos over here somewhere. It's not on the map, of course. But as you can see, basically what's known is very little, and that's about it, as of the complete world. Now, how that relates back with the archaeology will be hence explained. Now, as you can see, there's different time things. Now, in order, of course, you can see, when the two continents split up, and when different, there were actually different mountain ranges that emerged as a result of tectonic activities and various things. But as you can see, the first one according to Generation Anthropocene Project Geology for Game of Thrones, we see that there's a jump between the first mountains, which correspond to something like Appalachia. Sorry for the, I'm using my smartphone for those of you who haven't been with me that long. And as you can see, that jumps directly to 2 billion, well, it's 2 billion technically, in equivalent Earth terms. So now how can you find it? Well, let's go ahead and go back to the geology map here. This time, the one that corresponded directly to the one we see up here. So I did independently click on the picture and save it as a file, as you can see. But for the purposes of demonstration, I wanted to take the picture so I could enumerate on the tectonic and geologic forces as is outlined in the various lines here, as you can see. And basically what we have are distinct time periods distinct rock types in the two rock types actually. One corresponding volcanic, another just different rock type altogether. These are equivalences in time. Again, real world Earth analogy. And these are two separate instances that are being referred to. So to back up on the map here so we can see. Now, the territory up here is quite much older or younger than the territory down here, and that's a reflection, which I'll get to back on the other page in the event that I think I can explain it all. It might be a little bit over my head now too, but that's why Stanford did it, not me. Anyway, as you can see, these are all time equivalences, so you can take a look at the place. But you can see this giant thing up here, then it curves off. So here's what happened, guys. So remember on the map over here, so this is where the number 2 line is coming up, and it's trailing off in this direction, right? That's it. This is... So back to here again at 2. So what is happening? What happened is the Atlantic Ocean split up, North America and Europe. Now this, of course, makes it almost... We go back to the other map here that we have available. It makes it look like Turkey and UK are splitting off from each other, like Russia is like a giant fish is trying to compete with some dude who's like a duck or something, like a shark versus a penguin or something. It's kind of weird. I know, but that's just a funny description. But anyway, so we got the fictional story version of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, as you saw back at the other picture here, there's Southoros here, right? And then there's Uthos, and there's a giant island or something. So what does that mean? Well, the one in Southoros, if we go back actually to the timeline here, 500 million off, I'm going to go to that page to show you that picture on the site. Now, this particular has it at 30 degrees south and 40 degrees south. Now, I'll get to an explanation of why that's important later, because if you then go to when the sand ran red, let's go ahead and go here. As you can see, it used to be that it was down here, these mountains, right? They used to be down here. They're moving northward, and then look at this. There's a continent, an island, maybe it's New Zealand that nobody knows about. The kind of New Zealand equivalent thing nobody knows about? I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of making stuff up, as you can tell, but nonetheless, it's a good analogy. So you can see there's another island we're not really hearing about on this particular fiction story. Maybe we should go demand it. Or maybe, oh no, maybe it okay, well, as you can see then again, then, it moved from, now it was north of 20 degrees, and then it moved up to 10 degrees, so it's tectonically moving. And the same thing up here. So we'll be watching that particular incidents. Then, the Lannister Mountains, the Black Mountains. It was about the Rocky comparison, the same time period, yada yada. So it moves up until we hit the point where they, of course, begin to split up after they've rejoined. As you can see, mountains have been created as a result of various tectonic collisions, yada yada. You get the drift. So you smashed in. Raised up a bunch of stuff, got split up, and then a new one formed. So basically smashed in, that's an old fault line that doesn't exist anymore, zoom. So this was a giant subduction fault line that essentially closed up, got plugged up, and then a new ridge line formed in response. So that's what happened in this particular case. Now how that relates back with Southoros and Uthos, I'll explain as... On the 2 line, which formed 25 to 35 million years ago in the world of Game of Thrones fiction story, we see that it's split apart Westeros and Essos, where a chunk of Essos having joined with Westeros in an ancient fault line, which is approximately a subduction zone, which is approximately... I'm not sure how old that would specifically be, but based on what I could tell, it seemed to be, from the whole time period, it seemed to 500 million all the way to Did it? Let's see when it merged. Okay, so yeah, I'd say about it looks like it took about 300 million years in the Game of Thrones geologic universe for the whatever portion of the northern continent island that was to merge with Essos and then be split up again. And so this is the Valkyrie fire they talk about. Right here. That's the Valkyrie fire. The ridge is born. And so that, of course, goes back to Sothoros here. So if we have the Sothoros right here, underneath the Essos Westeros continental landmass, we got Ulthos somewhere east and south. Then what that means, as in the case of the 500 million year to 2 billion year time gap, is that besides the fact that there was a subduction zone for 300 million years and a newly active fault line, newly active ridge, for 1.5 billion years, we go back to the First Mountains reference. Now, we don't actually see Sothoros or Ulthos accounted for. But as you can imagine, they're like modern Antarctica in the bottom south. This is very much a similar picture to what happened on Earth. And again, it's another mirror. I think it's very interesting. But ultimately, we can see kind of what happened if you then go back to where the Sothoros and Ulthos map is. Ulthos, as I said, is not found here. But Sothoros is an ancient ridgeline, probably got disrupted somewhere. The fact that it got disrupted shows that it was a ridgeline. But what disrupted it? Probably the subduction zone that formed in the immediate outskirts of it, I guess. Because it must have been that there was a giant plate, and the ridge, of course, was splitting up 2 giant plates. The smashing of the Essos plate into what was then Proto-Westeros caused the subduction to form until they slammed and the subduction fault closed. But as that happened, then when the subduction clock got closed, it shut down the Sothoros-Essos separation, leading to the split between modern Westeros and Essos continents up here, as you can see. Trails off again. So Ulthos is somewhere over here. So that is how the timeline then for the 1.5 billion years would be accounted for within the world of the Game of Thrones story. And so I just wanted to compare this to you with the modern Earth world, or Eretz, as some people know it, Aretz for others. Well, I don't know what the exact word is in Arabic. I'm sorry, guys. I have to admit, I just used the word Eretz or Earth world from Hebrew and English, respectively. But ultimately, yeah, this is the best conclusion I can say with story in the mirror. But ultimately, I wanted to focus more on the geology because I just wanted to share with you guys how interesting. It just interested me just to study it and understand it from the geologic and not so much the story. Because, fantasy stories are great, but it's a fiction. What does it do for the real world unless you don't study it, right? So we had some people who also themselves were interested. Now, the other thing that some people be like, well, why would you be... Well, but as you guys know, remember... let me go ahead and actually go up here on YouTube for a minute. Let me go ahead and pull that up. There's a certain, so for those of you guys who didn't find out recently, sorry, I'm trying to type and record at the same time. I've never actually done this before, as you can see. Yes, here we go. Proxima Centauri B. Let's go ahead and find the homie. His name was Parallax. Here we are. Now, obviously, I don't have to actually show the video, but the point is, we're coming up on this new planet here, right? So let's go ahead and go to Wikipedia again. Yep, alright, got it. So as you can see, it's about, well, it's a bit distinct from our planet at the moment, but where's the information on it? On the planet specifically. So yeah, it's 1.27 Earth mass, and it's likely to be of rocky composition, and it's most likely temperature. Now, for those of you who want to understand what this means, this does not mean that it's like super, super cold. You see, Earth has albedo temperature, which is of equilibrium temperature. So when I say equilibrium temperature, back to the video here. Okay, actually, you know what? I don't even remember at what point in the video it was that he mentions it, but he reminds us that the carbon dioxide on Venus makes it worse than a nuclear furnace. I thought that was a really good comparison, but I think it's just too deep in the video. I'm sorry. I don't know what... if I had the time to go through the whole video, I would, but I'm already 15 minutes in. I don't want to waste your guys' time like that, honestly. That's not the kind of the point anyway. But the albedo temperature of the Earth is much warmer than this. It's about 20 to 10 degrees warmer. Both systems, I guess, here, technically, because 40 degrees Celsius is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's in negative, same thing. It's actually true. I calculated it once before. And basically, this would be like the albedo temperature. So if you didn't have an atmosphere, so if you're Mercury, as you know, the daytime side is 800 degrees Fahrenheit, or Celsius, or something. I don't know what the heck it is. And on the nighttime is the exact opposite, like negative, like 600 or something. Whereas Venus almost always stays 850 degrees Fahrenheit, or Celsius, or whatever, during the day, and this fluctuates the exact opposite at night. Whereas Earth, as you know, has a much more stable temperate temperature. So obviously, it's not always going to be negative 40 degrees out. But in this case, if it does have an atmosphere, it would really, really depend on the content of the atmosphere. Like, there's no question that it would be a complicated mess. I mean, there was a certain study I found, which found that it would depend on the 3-2 oscillation. Now, I myself would tell you that I think the 3-2 oscillation is very appropriate specifically. Now the question is, did I save the point at which I found something? There was a study that they did, and I thought I saved it, but it was something where they were explaining, maybe... Okay, I'm just going to admit it to you. You're probably just going to go ahead and watch that Parallaxity dude's video here. You're just going to want to watch this guy's video here. Because this is actually a really good one, and I would recommend watching it, definitely. So that is how a story, a fiction, fantasy world, an analysis of its geology lends itself to astrobiology analysis and applicativity to subject matters involving outer space. Talk about insane, right? But no, seriously, that is how cool this is. So, just figured I'd go ahead and announce to Proxima Centauri B we will be arriving soon and setting up shop. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. Or, in this case, evening, depending on your time zone. 775 to the 9. May the peace be with you.